Welcome to Licking Non-Vanilla, a sex-positive hour of talk about kink, sexual mores, and writing dirty words. So grab a cup of cocoa, your favorite easy chair, and the lube as we go sailing into the dark, sweet waters of all things naughty. On Licking Non-Vanilla with your hosts Ralph Greco Jr. and M. Christian.
Hello everybody, welcome to Licking Non-Vanilla. You've landed here once again. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's the way it is. I am one of your hosts, Ralph Greco Jr., and I'm on the crazy east coast of the United States. And across the country from me, but not that far from my heart ever, is my co-host, and his name is...
Chris, otherwise known as M. Christian, from the green, actually kind of brown right now, wilds of Eugene, Oregon.
Eugene, yeah. It's been hot there, right, Chris?
It's been warm. For here, it's been warm. I mean,
Yeah,
for the rest of the country, it's nothing, but for here, it's hot.
It's been warm in Jersey, too, that usual mugginess in Jersey.
Yeah, you have humidity. Ugh.
Oh, yeah. Good times, like soup. Now, we're lucky today because we have a guest, a lovely guest, and we're going to have a good time with her, have a good conversation. Her name is Alison Rey. Hello, Alison. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Ralph?
Good. Alison, you don't have to give us specifics where you're located, but is it warm there? How's the weather where you are?
I'm in Los Angeles, and
Okay.
it was really hot last week, but it's kind of cooled down this past week, which has been all right. But it's still warm.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I would venture to guess that wherever Alison goes, it's hot, right, Chris? That's how I slipped that in. So subtle.
Subtle. Real subtle.
I know, yeah. Alison, how long have you... Because I know these facts, so I like to ask facts, but I know these facts. It's that the old the lawyer trick, right? Never ask a question you don't know the answer to. But I know these facts, but I figure let's let our audience get to know these facts if they don't know you, and I'm sure a lot of them do already. How long have you been in the adult business, in shooting scenes and that kind of thing?
I am coming up on my 9-year anniversary next week.
Woo! Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's been a long time.
So the advent of digital, or were you were around with DVDs, I'm assuming, or just near the tail
Yes.
end of that? Okay.
I would say like maybe not like exactly the tail end, but like pretty close. I had a few
Okay.
box covers. I mean, they're
Oh,
still
okay.
making DVDs, but like being on a box cover was still a big deal when
Yeah,
I got in.
absolutely. Yeah. Remember that, Chris? We would talk to some talent, and even Chris and I wrote for some of those boxes, and I remember that being a thing. You know, I got a box, a cover, which is pretty cool. And I mean, you don't, of course, you wouldn't remember this. Chris and I go back to 8mm when back in the day, they were showing they were doing hand shadows on rocks. That's how far back. So that progression of 9 years. What would you say is the biggest, if there is one significant change, and not just the technology, how things are digital, but what's the overall what do you find is the biggest change in things, the big progression that you've seen in your
I
decade?
think it's the way that talent has been humanized on set, like with the crews that we work with. I think talent has a lot more bodily autonomy and agency, and there's a lot more of us like willing to advocate for ourselves than there used to be, because now there's not such a threat of like, if you're not like super amicable on, like if you ask for a specific kind of lube, you're immediately a diva, or something like
Yeah.
that. And now, because performers don't necessarily need studios treat us a lot better because
That's
of
interesting.
how big social media has been. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
just say like the way that performers are treated.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, I would say that the more power, for want of a better term, the autonomy, like you said, the power and the
Hmm.
that performers have. And I mean, this is true of every medium, right? I mean, this is true of music, and I know in the music business, and the more power the creator has, the more they can stretch their needs and wants to and not be seen as a diva or as a hard person to work with. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
when did that was that a slow progression, or all of a sudden you were like, oh my god, we have all this, we have all this autonomy? Did it like that,
No,
or was it
no.
slow?
Definitely a slow progression, and it absolutely like coincided with the rise of OnlyFans becoming like a household name because
Right.
like that's where like a lot of people were already creating independent content, but because OnlyFans like went mainstream so quickly, people were able to make a living now making their own movies and like having the consumers buy direct from them rather than relying on companies to pay their bills every month.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Uh, and so that leads to the question. I think Chris and I always have this question all the time. Then, with why then shoot with a company as opposed to only shooting for yourself, or is the best of both possible worlds a hybrid world?
I think that depends on the performer. I can't speak
Right.
for every performer. I think some
Yeah.
performers, like maybe they're not super creative or they don't do well at like learning multiple skills in order to shoot their own content. So maybe they are better on set. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
some people are a little bit more have a little more performance anxiety in front of an audience,
Yeah.
but when it's just them and their partner at home, like that might be fine for them. I
Right.
love a hybrid model because uh, I I love being on set. I love the environment on set and just being around people who understand me and are very like accepting of me as a human with like sexual desires, whereas the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the culture is generally a little less tolerant of who
Right.
I am. Um, and so yeah, like I would say a hybrid model. The reason you like would shoot for a company, even if your OnlyFans or whatever platform you're using
Mm-hmm.
is doing really well and making you good money, is because it's kind of like you're getting paid to advertise for yourself.
That's a good point.
Because
Yeah, it's a very good
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
point.
so like
Yeah.
companies like are paying for ad traffic on the huge hub sites, and like your image might be used in that, like in those
Yeah.
ads, and so people are going to go and they have a built-in audience already, and so if you do a really great performance you might be getting introduced, you're reaching a wider audience of people who then can
Mm-hmm.
come and buy direct from you.
That's a good point. Yeah, yeah, because it's that cross pollination, right? I mean, you're
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
doing something for like say for a Brazzers or a big company, and you do your own stuff, and kind of everything kind of meets together. You know, I was introduced to that early on when Chris and I first met. I was introduced to a publisher, and she said to me, which blew my mind. I didn't figure this concept because it was an ebook publisher from erotica, and she
Hmm.
said, and Chris will second this. Oh yeah, publish as many places as you can, and don't worry about building a relationship with just one publisher because if somebody finds your book over here, they may search for your book over there. So it's a kind of same thing, like all these spokes of the wheel. And I
Mm-hmm.
think because of the internet, we're allowed to do that now, right? We have
Hmm.
access like that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Chris, jump in here. Give
Oh,
Allison a
sure.
little give Allison a
Well,
little love.
and I do think that's a really wise course is to use kind of the hybrid because there's certain things you can't do, certain things like you mentioned before you might be comfortable with that you just want to do by yourself.
Hmm.
And like Ralphie just pointed out with our friend the publisher, it's like it never makes any sense to me that when you have like whoever makes anything to have an exclusivity agreement, that makes no sense because it puts all the burden of the work on that company
Hmm.
and as opposed to having another company do the work for them. I think it's fantastic. And that's really interesting too. You mentioned about the autonomy because it used to be you were beholden to the big companies, and now it's like
Hmm.
so they meant the rules. Now it's like they may suggest the rules.
Yes,
Not all, yeah.
exactly.
Because you can always say, okay, bye bye, I'm doing it on my own, and
Yeah.
it still probably pretty much the same results. So I think, I'm not sure about your experience, but I know through Ralph and I, it seems like this kind of like totalitarian, our way of the highway is kind of fading away,
Oh,
because they
yeah.
know that you can always go somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think especially because like we are living in still, very like cancel culture,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
world that with the way that the industry as a community exists on, I guess now it's called X. It's still Twitter. It's still
Right. Yeah, I
Twitter.
saw that
It's
come
not
up. Yeah.
X.
Oh God,
Right.
don't get me started. We have a
Yeah.
short show, so
Um, so the way that the community is just so present there, and we are all talking, everybody's talking, like no one director and no company like wants to be a part of another story of a girl like having issues on set. And
That makes
because of
sense.
that, a lot those companies are now having stricter rules for how crews are to behave, like when
Yeah.
they're on set with talent, and that has given us a lot more protection. I think in the past, the offices that are like up in Canada were very hands off,
Mm-hmm.
because there wasn't a lot of. I think social media was, still it was all still smoke and mirrors. There wasn't a lot of authenticity, but
Mm-hmm.
and I think COVID kind of brought that out of everybody. Is like just really like figuring out who you are. Like we all had a minute to like self reflect, and everybody's kind of
Yeah.
like showing up as like their more authentic selves. And because of that, people are speaking up more on platforms like Twitter, and then uh, companies don't want to get a bad reputation for working with people who are abusing girls on set. And so it's just
True.
made the
That's
industry
true.
safer overall.
Right. Yeah. Well, the transparency comes out, and everybody knows what's happening, like you said, good
Mm-hmm.
or bad, and
Mm-hmm.
the bad news travels fast, like fire, like a firestorm. But
Very, very
yeah,
fast.
yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
given that, have you the companies you still shoot with and for? Have you whittled the field down? Like, do you find you're doing, or do you still spread? I don't want to use the word spread, but spread yourself in a certain, still looking for other places, or do you say, what, there's two or three I really enjoy, and this is where I'm going to stay.
I'm very open to shooting with I can't think of, no, I can definitely think of a couple of companies I wouldn't work for, but I've
Okay.
never worked for them. I've always known I wouldn't work for them just because of
Oh, right, so
like
nothing new, right?
their
Yeah,
type
I
of
got you.
content. So nothing new.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, like I do primarily work with Adult Time. I have a very close relationship with them because I've worked as crew, and I help run their social media,
Okay.
and we just have a very close working relationship. So a lot
Mm-hmm.
of my work comes from Adult Time
From
naturally,
adult time, yeah, I
but
see a lot of your press is coming through and talking about adult time stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So there's that, and then other companies, like I get hired once in a while for other projects, but not nearly the same volume as I do with Adult Time.
Adult time, and just to let you know, if they're looking for writers, we're here. Anyway,
yes,
It's
for
funny, they've
pros.
actually really moved away from even writing scripts
Mm-hmm.
like they used to. Yeah,
Oh, I know.
they're
We
very,
know that for sure. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
it's
Yeah.
very much like, here's the concept for the website, come up with something like on the day of the shoot based on like who your performers
Yeah.
are, what they kind of want to do. It's really
Right.
interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if yeah, interesting. but you know what? That's what happens. We have to morph. We have to change. That's what
Yeah.
build a better mousetrap. We Chris and I have
yep.
changed how we do things and the things we pursue.
Adapt or die. That's the rule.
Yeah. Right. So speaking of content, then let's talk about your favorite kind of content to shoot, and then we'll talk about your
Mm.
least favorite. What's your favorite content to shoot?
When you say content, you mean like my content?
Just scenes in general. If you had your druthers, you would say, "This is what I want to shoot all the time." What would it be?
I would love to just be shooting like authentic, like very real sexual experiences, like focused on female pleasure with a crew, so that
Okay.
I'm not having to do all the extra work and heavy lifting
Gotcha.
of like filming it, and I can just focus on,
Right.
what I love.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, Chris and I are all about female pleasure, so we're right. We're right with you. Um,
Absolutely.
absolutely. So, conversely, what's your least favorite?
Virtual reality. Virtual reality sucks. It's like, has anybody ever, do you know what the setup is like to film virtual reality?
No, Chris knows because Chris is more
Chris
of a
is.
futurist erotica writer. I'm not. So tell
Okay.
everybody.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, it's a nightmare for the performers. So I can talk about like one. I've only done a handful of them, so I'll talk about one
Okay.
specific one. What they had the guy laying on a gym bench because they
Okay.
needed him to kind of be suspended in air because we're in like a seamless, or it's not even called a seamless because there's multiple walls. I don't even remember what it's called when it's like
Okay.
four
Like
walls,
a
but it's
pod.
like a green
It's like a
screen.
pod.
No, because it's just walls rather. What is it called? I don't know what it's called. It doesn't matter. It's like a
Okay. Yeah.
seamless,
Okay.
but
Well,
like
okay.
more
Go
360
ahead.
instead of just like 2D. Um, and so he was laying on that, and then they have the cameras, and they're usually two GoPros, and they have them stacked up next to each other so
Okay.
that the two lenses are like eyes, and you're supposed to kind of look at them at the same time, like you're looking at somebody's eyes. And they're like, don't look at
Okay.
just one. I'm like, I have no idea how to look at a person's like two eyes at the same time. Like I'm always looking at one eye or the other.
Right. Right.
But you're having to look at it and then like kiss it. So you gotta like get real close to the camera and like try to kiss it, but like it's just like right here. Meanwhile, you're having sex with like an actual human being
Right.
who is laying there. They can't use their hands to touch you. They can't talk to you. You can't even make eye contact with them.
Okay.
It is the hardest scene
Wow.
to shoot of any kind because like I am very much like I said that's like if I want to shoot authentic pleasure, like that is
Yeah.
that is not the way I'm getting it because like they're
Okay.
quite
Right.
literally a prop at that point.
Right. Right. Wow. See, Chris, we talk about this all the time because I mean I know this is the world happening around us, but I didn't realize it was so stifling, and
Yeah.
so odd to shoot that way, So you would say, see, because I was looking for you to say, well, I hate anal or something, but I didn't know you were going to tell me like, no, it's shooting specifically the way we're shooting as opposed to what I'm shooting that I don't like. But that's really yeah. See, Chris, you and I talk about this futurist stuff all the time, and Chris is definitely more of a futurist than I am. In fact, if you can see his shirt, he says "Future of Sex" is the new. It's a site that he's now the editor of, and we talk about erotica and future stuff all the time. And I know it is hot. It's really hot. I know that's what people are looking for. But so I read in the Vice article that you did recently. That was a recent article, right? The interview.
Yeah,
Vice.
fairly recently. A couple
Yeah,
months
yeah, it
ago.
was really extensive, and it was with your guy, right? So your guy was
Yeah.
in the article too, which was great because we got his perspective too. But you said I'm gonna quote back to you what you said, okay? Because
Okay.
you made a quote, and I thought it was very very specific and had a lot of gravitas to it. Porn sex is fun, but not really pleasurable.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't it pleasurable? I know why. Chris knows why, and you know why. But tell
Yeah.
everybody who thinks they look at porn and figured you got to be getting off 15 times and it must be the greatest thing in the world. But tell us why it's not pleasurable.
It's not pleasurable because, well, I want to like, I want to expand upon that quote because
Yeah,
I
please.
know he kind of, really
Well,
shortened it down
I
from
grabbed
the
that
interview.
stupid quote. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. No, it's okay. It's that, uh, like, when you're having sex for a camera, you're having sex for it to look good. When you're having sex for yourself, it's so that it feels good.
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
because you
That's
want
a
it
great
to
distinction.
look good, uh, something that's super important is like trying to always see the penetration. Now, if you're going to see the penetration, I don't know if you understand human anatomy, but like it kind of disappears into the human that you're connecting with.
Yeah,
And
last
the
I
only
checked.
way, right. So the only way you're going to see it is if you get it in from the side. And so
Okay.
we're having to open up our, like, our hips in an unnatural way. So, like, when it would normally be like going in like this and like it fits because, like, that's the shape of the hole, instead, I'm turning out so that you can see the hole.
Oh, I
But the
see.
thing is, the dick can't come this way because then his thigh is blocking the hole. So he needs to go this way. But
Yeah, it's
my
very
hole
unnatural.
is shaped like this, and he has to go like this. So he's just jamming the side of my body so that you guys can see what's happening.
Right. I always thought too,
So
the it's the blowjob scenes too. There's a lot of, like a lot of like, which I don't, there's a time and a place for everything. We all agree to that. I'm not saying there isn't, but
sure.
a preponderance of those is like the like really, I'm like, it's just too much for me. I can't get my, and I know what you're saying. It's shot that way, but in reality, that's not even going to be pleasurable to either person. I don't think. So that's another one of those instances where I'm like, and at times everything's fine at times, but like you're saying, the anatomy doesn't probably go with the way we have to shoot it is not natural for the anatomy of our bodies.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a
Exactly.
lot of
And
sense.
that's
Yeah,
why, that's why we're called performers, is because, like, we might be like I've said a lot, like I have a lot of fun shooting, but
yeah,
like I'm usually not getting off because also
yeah.
not only is it like it's not even necessarily about like the physical, like it not necessarily being pleasurable because the anatomy isn't working, but uh I know a lot of people can relate to this, is like I really need to be able to drop into my body and like limit distractions in order to feel good, especially like I'm on SSRIs, they kill libido. And so I
Mm,
really need to focus if I'm going to like try to like really enjoy myself and like feel
yeah.
the sensations that are happening in my body.
Hmm.
And when you're on set, there's so much going on around you. Like some like you're opening up the camera, but you kind of have to like be looking in your peripherals to know where the
Mm.
camera is without looking straight at the camera. You're thinking
Right,
about like you have your internal clock going, like wondering when you need to change up
right.
positions. It's just
Yeah,
you're thinking about literally thinking
Hmm.
about like what's for lunch, or like if you have lines that you're supposed to be saying in the middle of the
right,
scene or
right.
after. um it might be really hot, the person might
Yeah,
like smell, like there's literally like so many things that could
yeah,
be happening that just are not conducive to like physical enjoyment.
yeah. That makes perfect sense. I can see how the separation, things are not. The reality of the situation is not really conducive to what we think is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Let me give a quick ID here. This is you're listening to Licking Non Vanilla. So everybody out there who's listening, hopefully this is not going up. We never go up live. This is actually our number 51 episode. So hopefully people are listening. We do get a nice cross section of people. Um, so let's talk about what's coming up for you. Let's talk about in the future. Do you have some short range plans and long range plans and all that kind of stuff, because people are going to be interested. So tell us what's happening.
Yeah. Well, I have like a Adult Time is kind of doing this new, like it's not exactly like it's kind of a performer showcase, but it's like a week
Oh,
long thing. So, and that's all about authentic pleasure. And it's kind of their new, like their take on Gonzo. So there is a solo episode, where I have a real orgasm and they just like let me do my thing. And I don't, they're
cool.
like, be yourself. Like, as much as you can, do not perform. Like that is
Right.
the prescription for. So it's for how women orgasm
Mm-hmm.
for Adult Time, and then their new boy girl site is called Up Close,
Up
and
close. Okay.
up close. So, in Gonzo, like the girl can kind of look at the camera.
Hmm.
Uh, in this series, it kind of opens with the girl talking to the camera. So it kind of seems like it's going to be a POV. And
Hmm.
then we introduce the third. So, like, it really, like, I'm really, really with my partner. And then there's moments, it's supposed to be kind of split 50-50, almost as if the viewer is really in the room with us, like a voyeur, like, a
Hmm.
boyfriend that's like into watching you like
I
get
gotcha.
fucked by somebody else or something like that. Not in
Right.
like a cuckold way, but in like a hot wife, like, we're having this sexual experience together
Right.
kind of way.
That's
So
cool.
that should be coming out soon. Losing an earbud. Um, so that's coming out soon. I am heading to Exotica, New Jersey in November. I'm very
Well, I'll
excited.
meet you. I'll see you there. Because
Perfect.
I'm in New Jersey. I'm always there.
Yeah.
So, Chris, you can't go. Well, you can go, Chris.
Mm,
You get your ass out of here. You
fine, fine, fine. I'll have
uh,
wild sex in Oregon.
all right. Yeah. Good luck with that. So you're coming to Exotic. Were you there last year?
No, I've never been to one, so I'm really
Let me
excited.
tell
It's
you,
my first one.
last year rocked, and I don't know. I hadn't been. Of course, none of us had been in a while, right? Because of COVID.
Right,
And
right.
even before then, it really felt to me, and I told this to Chris, it felt like it was getting a little flaccid, It just was getting
Mm.
a little, the bloom was off the rose, as we say. But last year, man, it was rocking. And I went on the Friday, which is literally the first day, and it's, for press day. And I'm telling you, I saw friends that Chris and I have there, and everybody was there. So are you going to be
Awesome.
representing yourself or adult time, you think?
I'm actually going to be at Queer Crush's booth,
Oh, okay.
representing
Okay.
kind of them and myself.
Right.
And they're all awesome. They are it's like a queer webs, like it's queer sex made by an all queer crew.
Oh,
Uh,
cool. Okay. Okay.
and yeah, they're awesome, and they're very much the same, like where it's about like the authentic sex, like whatever it looks like it doesn't
Yeah.
have to include orgasms, like it doesn't have to. I think their one thing is like you have to use like a toy in some
Okay.
respect, is kind of like
Right.
their one thing, because like that's
Right.
very normal for like queer sex. So
Yeah, I got you.
uh yeah, and they're awesome,
That's
just like
cool.
big advocates for genuine authentic
That's
experiences. So
cool. It's
I'll
it's
be
gonna
there,
be
That's
great.
there with them.
exciting.
Yeah. I mean, Chris, she
Yeah.
won't remember me when I meet her, of course, but um, we're instantly forgettable. But I definitely come by and say hi. But so,
Yeah.
Chris, jump in. I've been monopolizing the conversation. I
No, no,
mean,
no, no. I love this. It's like I'm just really jealous that you guys all live on the East Coast, or at least have a way of getting around there. I mean, actually, you're
yeah,
in LA, but well, actually, LA is really active too, and of course, New
yeah,
York.
oh,
So
yeah,
I'm out here in the Pacific Northwest, which is not exactly known for the the adult entertainment industry,
right.
but well, Ralph and I keep making plans, and we should talk about this sometime about going to, was it AVN in Vegas?
Oh,
What's the one
AVN for
then?
sure. Yeah, well, for
Yeah,
sure. When
and
we get the press every year and we just don't go. Have you gone to AVN, Allison?
Yeah, I've gone every year that it's happened except for my first year in the industry. I was just so
Okay.
new, and I didn't feel like it would be worth it
Right.
to go.
Right. Right. But
well, let's
exotic is your first time.
Yes.
Okay.
let's make plans. Let's make plans for AVN. And is it January?
Yeah,
January. Yeah.
it's
Oh, I'd
like the
love to get
third
there.
week of January.
I want to get because Internex is the same time, right? There's the two conventions, right?
Mm, no, I
Isn't
think
right
that was the
before?
thing, is like this past AVN, that
Yeah.
is what it was. And I feel like it
Okay.
was a shit show. It used to be like that. But it
Okay.
was like immediately after. It was literally like it started like 4 days after New Year's. It was and that was when Internext was. And so it was just too stressful on everybody. So we were all really glad when they put it back to like the third week of January. I believe that convention is the week before.
I think so. The problem with all this, if you're from specifically from the East Coast like I am, and you want to do both conventions, it's a long time out in Vegas. It can be a
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
long time out there, and Vegas is a dangerous place in a long time. I mean, like I don't mind a roulette wheel, and so it can be very very dangerous. So, but Chris and I have been talking about going, and we definitely have the press to do it. So just got to figure it out. But
Absolutely. I think it'd be fun. I mean, it's like, but it's kind of a bummer, like you said, that the two are. I mean, I can understand from the event perspective because one after another, you're going to burn out. They're going to,
yeah,
compete with one another. But like Ralph said, it's like I don't know if we can spend 3 weeks in Vegas without
yeah,
either
yeah,
in a broke or in jail, one of the two. So so it's
or
like, oh,
both.
God,
Yeah,
exactly. Got to roll and see which one we want to go to.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It was nice because, like, I guess in the past when they used to coincide at the same time, there would be a lot of overflow. Like, once the
yeah,
convention at Internext got out, then all the, like, tech guys would
yeah.
come over and, like, kind of check out all the girls, and that
Right,
was
right.
cool. But this past year, uh, I don't know, it was just like, it was so many, I guess, like, looky-loos, instead of
Mm,
like people who were like really there because they were excited to be there. So the
Yeah,
energy was just so different than any other year that I had experienced. And I'm, yeah, I'm, I think people just, you know, before this past year would come out to AVN because they like really wanted to be there.
yeah,
And that like changed the whole experience. So it was just
yeah.
it was just weird, and also weird not being at the Hard Rock.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah, it
that's a big
wasn't. Yeah,
change.
yeah. I don't know if well, Exotica was great. I gotta say, and I was very heartened by it because it was like, wow, I didn't know what was going to happen. I know what it was going to be like post COVID because nobody knew. We
Yeah.
nobody really knows. But I think in some ways, especially in the adult industry, we're still finding our footing. It's still
mm-hmm.
relatively new post COVID, and I don't use that new normal term because it pisses me off when I say it because I don't know normal before. But anyway, but I think maybe we're still taking some stuttering steps. Like maybe that's the last thing we can talk to you about. Have you found? Because you said to me, COVID was a moment where we could take a step back and reassess and think about maybe what we really want to do and what we didn't want to do. But negatively, what has been the effects of COVID on the adult business? Do you see anything in that way?
Um, I mean, I guess, well, this isn't just the adult industry, but
Yeah, no, I know.
there's definitely, with the economy and just where it is
Yeah.
because of how everything slowed down with COVID and,
Hmm.
like the stimulus, like there was a lot of money spent to like keep the world turning, and, uh,
Yeah.
performers definitely like got hit with that really hard.
Hmm.
And it was just, I think we're still seeing a little bit of that,
Hmm. Yeah, I'm sure.
post COVID, but that,
I'm sure.
that's not unique to the adult industry.
That's true. No,
I would,
everybody got hit.
yeah, exactly. So I'm like, I mean, it's primarily been pretty positive
Yeah,
changes, at least in
that's
my
good.
experience.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that everybody is still doing what they're trying to do what they did.
Hmm.
Um, what was my last question now? I forgot my. Wow.
Well, I know in
Um,
my little neck of the world, it seems like things are just kind of like still really kind of hesitating.
mm,
Really?
It's like, all the little communities are sort of like finally starting to peek their heads out of their burrows and look around.
mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's like this is kind of nervousness. It's like we're not too sure about how
Yeah.
the world has changed, and so many people are just gotten used to like being at home.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
it's just like actually going out in public is sort of strange. It's like
Yeah.
it's so alien.
You know what? I guess that is like one thing that it is negative is I have noticed like at industry events where it's where you used to see everybody would show up for the Heaven and Hell Halloween party or something like that.
Right.
This last year, like there were not a lot of people that I recognized, and
Mm-hmm.
the crowd, like it was just like before, like it was like sardines, you could barely move
Yeah.
through the
Yeah.
crowd, like everyone wanted
Yeah.
to be there, and it wasn't packed like that this time. So
Hmm.
it's not like that's like a major thing, but it is different.
Yeah. I'm thinking
Yeah.
it's got, like you said, across the board. I think it's true of science fiction convention, horror conventions. I mean, we're seeing it because Chris and I write in those fields too, and we see it. I
Hmm.
see it at concerts. I mean, concerts are less, and except for Taylor Swift, she's killing it. But um, I
Single-handedly
guess,
saving the economy, I hear.
yeah, right. Single her Springsteen. Um, so how much do you have a long range goal where you're saying, okay, I'm in it for this amount of years? Do you have any of that in your
No,
mind?
no,
Okay, good.
I never thought I would be here for 9 years. I thought I would
Okay.
be here for like a maximum of 3 years, and then I was gonna, move on and use my college degree. And I quickly realized that I don't didn't want to use my college degree. I just wanted to
Good for you.
learn about the
Yeah.
things that I
Right.
learned with my degree.
What the hell's wrong with that?
And so I was like, yeah. So I was, I found myself, and it's okay. And I was like, I don't want to go into debt going to grad school because that was always my plan was get my master's, and I didn't
Yeah.
want to go into debt. So I always was like, okay, I'll stop when I'm, you know, when I finish college. And then I
Yeah.
finished college, and I was like, well, I still need to work, and I don't want to do this. So, like, I'll keep working while I figure it out. And then it turned into I'll stop shooting when it stops making me happy. And there was a minute when I was like, I have not been feeling good for a while shooting. And then COVID happened, and then I resolved, I was like, when I was doing my self reflecting and what do I want to do? What do I not want to do? I
Mm.
realized I really want to be more selective about um, less about the companies I work for, but more about the people I work with,
Yeah, makes sense.
and make sure
Well, the
it's like,
people make up the company, right? Yeah. That
Hmm.
makes sense.
well,
Yeah.
no, I mean like co-talent.
Oh, okay. Fellow
Like,
performers.
yes,
I got you.
yeah, because
Okay.
like it is something. It's a very intimate act. No matter how much we sanitize it on set and make it a professional environment, like there's still like a person inside of me, and
Yeah.
that's a lot. So
Yeah.
just kind of protecting my energy and taking care of myself has changed a lot. So I'm still very much in that mindset of I'll stop when it stops making me happy.
Hmm.
I imagine like I'm not sure if I want kids, but if I do decide to have kids, I think that's where I will stop
Yeah.
at least for, a few years and,
Yeah.
and just do mom things. But
Right. I
I
got you.
really have no idea how long I'll be around.
That's great.
I've
Wow.
recently, I've recently learned that I know nothing, and every plan I make is wrong,
Absolutely.
and it's just not, everything changes way too fast, and I don't have a crystal ball, and that's okay.
Well, believe me, the one thing Chris and I say to all the time, and most people our age say this all the time, and people think you're being facetious, you're just being a wise ass, but it's true. The older I get, the less I know. I might be more self aware of my own shit, right? But around me, it's a crapshoot, man. I don't know what's going on from day to day. And then
Yeah.
you put other people in the mix. You're like, they're all coming at me with their own shit. It's like there's a lot of stuff,
Hmm.
So you usually don't have a clue. So
Yeah.
real quick before we have to say goodbye, just tell us uh, when this show airs and before, like within this week, I'm going to get a blog up anyway about all this, and I'll put all your socials in. But tell us quickly where people can find you.
I'm on pretty much every platform. The easiest way to find me on whatever platform you're curious about is on my website, AlisonRayFans.com. You go to the My Links tab, and it's got all my links.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll grab them in one place. Well, Allison, I don't know if we could thank you enough, so we're going to just try to thank you a little bit. But thank you very,
Absolutely.
very
Thank you. It was delightful.
delightful,
Yeah,
and
thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
you have all the best success, further success with everything. I'm gonna definitely see you exotica. You won't. You'll just
Yeah.
think I'm some crazy fan. You'll be like, who's this long hair coming up and talking to me?
Well, you are. It's just not your usual level.
Yeah, my usual. I'll try to amp it down. It's a Friday night. I'll be a little quieter. But Allison, thank you very much, and
Yeah.
all the best to you. And we'll get everything up, and when we get it going in the blogs and the show, you'll know about it. So we'll be able to tweet and twat it all over the place.
Awesome. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you very much.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Well, Chris, we did it again. Another show.
Oh, that was wonderful. She's fantastic.
These were wonderful. It's
oh,
very honest, and and I love talking to people about the whatever businesses is when they're honest and forthcoming and just obviously enjoying themselves and have reflection and all that kind of stuff, you know.
Absolutely,
So,
and I really like the discussion about VR because, oh man, I tell you, it's like, I know we're winding down, but it's from what I've seen, it's a pain in the butt to film it because it's
yeah,
like,
I'm sure.
in fact, I read about something, this is a while ago, where someone had, I think it was one of the VR adult companies, they had actually developed this head that has cameras for eyes and microphones in the ears, and so the performers would react to this, and I thought, okay, that is just flipping creepy.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
It's like
kind of
that.
like,
Those robots in that. There was a video, a very famous. Was it? Oh, I forget the name of the performer. But it was a video, and it was like all these robots and stuff, and I remember thinking, and they had the eyes both, and I was like, this is too fucking creepy, you know. What's her name from Metropolis? What was her name? The robot. in
Maria.
Right, Maria. Yeah. Chris, and on the subject of future stuff, let's talk real quick. So Chris is now the editor of Future of Sex, which is a website. Where are they based, Chris? Are they based anywhere specific?
Well, the company is actually Australian, but it's futureofsex.net is the URL.
Okay.
And so check it out. I'm just recently took on the mantle of the managing editor, and it's a lot of fun. And yeah, it's a great site. I've been working with them for a long time, and I just recently got the job. But it's really a fun place. It's where you basically talk about everything to do with like sex, technology, and we even publish fiction now, which is really exciting.
Yeah, the good thing, I think, I've always said this about Chris's writing. I mean, I'm his biggest fan, but specifically one of the things he does very well, and he'll admit this, he's not that humble. He knows he's a futurist and a fantasist in that way, and I think that he has an ability. I'm talking about you, Chris, like you're not here, but he has an ability of weaving the erotic and the sexual within the speculative, the future speculative, and in a way that, like, guys like, I mean, although I don't know too many writers, science fiction writers, that did that, Chris. I mean, the guys that we love weren't really Heinlein and Asimov and Ellison and those guys, the big guys, Sheckley even. They weren't. They kept their sex to themselves, but back in the day, I don't know. Can you name one guy that you can think of?
Oh, a couple.
Okay.
Philip Jose Farmer. Farmer would always put sex in his stuff. Bob Silverberg always has
Silverberg, you're right. Yeah.
And Ted Sturgeon.
Okay.
Sturgeon always had something in there, and you're right. It's like Heinlein was a little bit, but yeah, those come immediately to mind because there was like put a little if not sexuality, at least sensuality in what they were doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Farmer is very legendary about that. Farmer even wrote a very famous / infamous book called Image of the Beast. Which was commissioned, I believe. Jean Marie, our publisher friend, would know more about that because Jean Marie's an expert in all things science fiction. But I think it was commissioned by Playboy that was thinking of doing a science fiction, fantasy, erotica imprint. And if you can look it up, Philip Jose Farmer's Image of the Beast, it is a frickin' wild ride.
Cool.
Farmer is just notorious for doing this kind of stuff. He also wrote Venus on the Half Shell, which
I've read that.
Yeah, which is he used Vonnegut's pen name, the fictional writer in Vonnegut,
exactly.
Kilgore Trout.
And
but there's not a lot of it. I mean, it's gotten more with the digital revolution. But check those out because they're fun books. And Farmer is really wild. And even Piers Anthony has done some really.
I read a Piers Anthony. Yeah. He's definitely, there's this one guy though, Chris. I don't know if you know this guy. He used to live on the West Coast. He moved inward a little bit. He goes by the name of M. Christian. He's I think is one of the top guys in that field. But he's a very difficult guy to get along with though. That's the problem. He's not genial and he's not like.
Oh, I am so insulted. My agent will be contacting you.
That's right. My seconds will be calling your thirds. But anyway, well, thanks for listening, everybody. It was another great show. Thank you, Chris, as always.
Oh, thank you, Rafi. It was always wonderful.
And we'll talk to you next time. This was we're going to get this show up quickly because she was just Allison was wonderful. Really, I mean.
Oh, absolutely.
I
Pure
love
delight.
I love ladies like that. We just have a real good time with them, and we treat them as best as we think we can. But okay, guys, we'll see you next time on Licking on Vanilla. This is Ralph Greco Jr., one of your co-hosts, and over there is
Chris, otherwise known as M. Christian, from the wilds of Eugene, Oregon.
yes, and we'll see you next time, kids. Bye bye.
And visit us on the web at www.lickingnonvanilla.com.